So how do we get down to the final decision of which indication and which technology we go after? There is, at some point, sort of a gestalt to which technology is more likely to succeed based on all the factors that you can put together. And we don't do any kind of a formal numerical ranking or algorithm or anything. But there are some which just fall by the wayside along the way. So as over the course of 6 months, we may look at 10 or 20 different things, and you just have to kill some of those along the way. But usually when we get down to deciding to pursue one thing, there are a couple of side runners. It tends to be pretty organic as to which one is the lead horse. But we do compare relative to one another, and it's, regulatory, reimbursement, economics, and likely clinical and technical risk. Because we're agnostic as to which body part or indication we go after, we're just very pragmatic about which one we think will have the highest likelihood of success and in the shortest timeline. It's pretty much a consensus decision. The only situation where I think we've had maybe one conflict with investors in the past, but typically if there's a conflict, we just early on decide not to even go down the pathway of pursuing something. But it is consensus, and that can be contentious, and it can take a fair amount of time to get to consensus. But we do it evidence-based, right? I mean, if there are unbelievers in the beginning, but some people feel strongly about it, continuing to gather the evidence to try to sway the unbelievers or to make the believers realize that it's probably not the right thing to do. We go down that path if it looks promising enough. There's often consensus early kill, where it's just not an area that we want to go into, or it's not a compelling solution to an area. There are some areas that we just stay away from entirely. But at the end of the day, it is consensus. Choosing which project to pursue, especially early in one's career, that's a tough call. At the end of the day, I think early in the career, it's good to base some of that on advice of mentors. But there are times when you just have to go against the mentors and go with your gut. I think if you do the work to characterize all of the different areas that we talked about, there typically ends up being one that just looks right and feels right. And sometimes you just need to go for it. A friend of mine who was a marketing person who had been an engineer had a plaque in her office that said, at some point in every product cycle, you need to shoot the engineers and sell it. And, I take that as a proxy for you just can't overthink everything. Sometimes you're not going to know if it's going to succeed unless you start, and you just have to jump in.